In 2021, I did something really simple that resulted in my alcoholism vanishing. Just like that. For the longest time, I had absolutely no idea what had happened. But recently, I stumbled upon a simplified explanation of self-esteem, loosely based on Maslow's principle, that explains almost perfectly why it happened. According to this explanation, we have a certain level of self-respect and also a certain level of appreciating factors in our life. The product of these two components generates our self-esteem. Rightly or wrongly, I saw this as a simple equation. Self-respect multiplied by appreciating factors equals self-esteem. Self-esteem drives our motivation, which in part at least drives our growth. And within that growth, something I call a spectrum of possibilities. The article I read didn't describe appreciating factors, but I assume they would include things like supportive friends, family, work colleagues, or even customers. They could also come from within ourselves. Or sport, a healthy lifestyle, and career and business development would be appreciating factors. Looking back over my own life, I found that with concerted effort I was able to enhance my appreciating factors to some extent and lift my self-esteem a little. But it was never enough to get me out of the negative looping zone I spent most of my life in. Last year, however, I put this simple self-esteem principle to use without even realising it. Instead of trying to increase the appreciating component of my mix, unwittingly I decided to decrease the depreciating component. I see depreciating factors as being things like antagonistic friends, family and work colleagues. The abuse and criticism and lecturing they dish out suppress your appreciating factors. Even negative media could be classified as a depreciating factor. All of this seems to go hand in hand with some kind of unhealthy or time-wasting activity. Those who accept depreciation, that is, they think it's a good thing, seem to have a fixed mindset that they want you to have as well. Most seem to assume that it's character building. Life's tough, toughen up. They go on to say that happiness has nothing to do with anybody else. If we are unhappy, it is entirely our own fault because we chose the wrong options. For most of my life, I subscribed to this notion as well. I used to pride myself on my ability to handle the never-ending stream of criticism and abuse being heaped on me by family, work colleagues, casual acquaintances, etc. Problem was, though, to cope with it all, I was drinking and caught up in a negative looping cycle within a fixed mindset. The longer I was in this cycle, the more trapped I became, unable to escape. As time went on, I became more and more convinced there was something really wrong with the widely held beliefs about depreciating factors. Yeah, okay, some of my relationships are mandatory, so I need to tolerate some depreciating behaviour. But most of the depreciating behaviour was coming from friends. So I started to wonder, why was I accepting this in my life? Eventually, I decided I'd had enough of it. I no longer wanted a barrier to my happiness for no good reason. It all came to a head one evening as I sat watching my computer screen while a supposed friend typed a stream of abuse to me. Midway through his rant, I decided to cut ties with him and with all those voluntary relationships who deemed depreciating behaviour acceptable. I also decided I was no longer going to watch any media that was depreciating in any way. Then, the most amazing thing happened. The moment I made my decision, I felt my alcoholism float away from my body and vanish. After 50 years of it, No meds, no counselling, no AA, no withdrawals, no cravings, no boredom, nothing. It was as if I had never had a drink in my life. For 6 months, I could not figure out what had happened to me. All I knew was that things changed the moment I had made up my mind. Then I came across this simplistic explanation of self-esteem. Suddenly, it all made sense to me. With such a small portion of my mix smiling upon me, it had been impossible to feel happy and good about life. I further assumed that when I removed most of the depreciating factors, my few appreciating factors filled the void, making up a much greater portion of my mix. This in turn meant a much greater portion of my mix was smiling on me. So of course I felt happier. Moreover, I was resolute in my decision to no longer accept depreciating behaviour, and it was as if my brain said, OK, if you're serious about this and we aren't going to keep sitting around listening to unhappy, angry people who try to offload their misery by depreciating you, then I won't need medication to handle it. With alcohol gone, my appreciating factors had suddenly become 100% of my mix. This meant my self-respect component was being multiplied by an even greater number. In turn, this drove up my self-esteem. All of this flowed through to my motivation, giving me the exhausting work drive of an ambitious 25-year-old. Over time, I've even noticed my looping cycles dropping off, one by one. The best part is, by visualising exactly what happened, I've locked in my gains. My self-esteem is now so important to me, I dare not risk having another drink, no matter how good the idea sounds. If the idea of buying alcohol does cross my mind, I call an image of this control panel to mind, along with a cautionary inclusion. As far-fetched as it sounds, this really did happen to me. Before, I would have been the first to admit that I probably wouldn't believe it had it not happened to me personally. Now though, in view of this simple equation for building self-esteem, it all makes sense. And this got me to thinking, if this idea worked for me, why can't it work for others who are in the same situation I was? There is no guarantee it will cure alcoholism or anything else, but surely lowering the portion of depreciating factors in your life would have to help your self-esteem and give you greater control over your life. You can start right now by identifying some of the depreciating factors in your own life, such as toxic media, along with antagonistic, unnecessary acquaintances. Then just delete them. Get them out of your life. Remember, the best thing about this is the tremendous leverage it offers. With just a little effort, you can achieve so much.